What's the most sheltered thing you ever heard from someone? I am the sheltered one here, and boy howdy, where the frick do I start? I didn't know it was possible to drive a vehicle without a permit or you would be arrested on the spot. Was told it was illegal to dye the hair of anyone under 18. My friend dyed her hair blue at like 15. Chaos ensued. But the one that took the cake was me starting my period in church during a sermon about how Eve fricked it up for all uterus wielding beings after her because she couldn't not frick with one frickin' tree. I started feeling sick and at one point excused myself to vomit mid-sermon and asked my aunt to go home. On the drive home, she told me that I better actually be sick or God would punish me by giving me my period like he did to Eve for refusing to listen to his word and being a heathen and a sinner. I got home and went to use the bathroom, looked down, and I'd started my period. Naturally, 12-year-old me went into fricking hysterics like a rational human bleeding from the bits. My mom and aunt ran in, and my mom asked me why the heck I was screaming because it was just a period and she told me to expect it at some point. I explained that God was punishing me for leaving church early and not listening to his word just like Eve didn't. My mom opened her mouth to ask me where I got the idea, stopped, and turned to my aunt who looked really guilty. Mom stopped compelling me to go to church. My aunt later tried to tell me tampons took your virginity, and my mom responded by telling her where she could shove one. Go mom. My friend in high school said I'm going to be a flight attendant so that eventually I can work my way up to becoming a pilot. I had to explain to her that the process of becoming a pilot is completely removed from flight attending. She had told her parents and siblings this many times before and no one had corrected her. They looked at me like a monster who just killed her dreams after I told her. Maybe they knew she couldn't be a pilot but thought flight attendant was a good career for her. A roommate I had in university told his mom that I watched South Park at night, so she had him changed to a different room cause I was a bad influence. My 5-year-old went to stay with his grandmother and when South Park came on, he told her that I'll let him watch it all the time. Grandmother called me uppy as heck. I had to explain to her that 5-year-olds are entirely capable of lying to grandparents. Someone I worked with named her daughter Bethany Jane and called her BJ. Her poor daughter, when she hit her teens, eventually had to explain to her mother exactly why she was begging her to use her first name and drop the hyphen. LOL related. There was a really old middle school teacher that had something called a behavior journal, BJ, for when kids acted up. She didn't know why a class of 13 yos wouldn't settle down after threatening them with "don't make me give you a BJ." Walking the dogs in the park with some friends at 16 years old. I can't go past the swings. His walkie-talkie would have been out of range if his mom tried to contact him. That kid needs to do an AMA. Reading a map under an underpass at noon with lots of people around in a residential area of town with a friend. We should get going. This is where people get murdered. Maybe you read the clock wrong. 12 AM and 12 PM are pretty confusing. I don't like zoos. People should go on safaris like my family did. And when I said not everyone could afford a 5-star African safari, let alone days off to take one, she said well they should save up because I think it's important. Ugh. Ugh. My mum's mother left her with her dad when she was very young, and her dad tended to avoid difficult topics, such as periods, sex education etc. She got pregnant with me when she was 19. And didn't really have anyone in her life who could help her with her pregnancy. As a result, on the date she'd been given as her expected due date, she went into hospital and announced that she was there to have a baby. I apparently arrived several days later. Please don't let my child go outside today. It's too cold for her. A parent called me in the middle of class to tell me this. She had a sweater on. It was 65 degrees outside that day. I was like 20 before I knew circumcised men could still jack off. I always felt really sorry for the Jewish boys who I assumed couldn't masturbate. During a mental health course in nursing school we were studying the effects of different drugs. Most of the class knew the basics, like marijuana gives you bloodshot eyes and the munchies. Methamphetamines cause insomnia and constricted dilated pupils. Mushrooms will give you hallucinations. This girl begins to get upset and declares how unfair it is she's at a disadvantage because she wasn't raised in a ghetto. She was mad she had to study more than the rest of the class since she hadn't been exposed to illicit drugs. I'm one of the most sheltered people I know, or I used to be anyways. I didn't know you could buy used cars until I was like 16. When I found out, it was quite embarrassing that I didn't know that. Another good one. So I bought my first car when I was 18. Before that I had a Jeep that my parents bought me. My parents had always handled servicing it for me, so I had no idea that I needed to do anything to maintain it other than put gas in it. Someone rear-ended me and I needed to get a new back bumper, and when I was at the dealership getting it fixed, the guy asked me when the last time I got an oil change was. I answered, when I bought it there were 12k miles on my car at that point. I was the laughing stock of the entire Chevy dealership for like 3 hours. That last one is pretty damned common actually. I have a friend who didn't realize the concept of oil changes and threw a rod on a road trip to Montana. A cloistered monk I know asked me why anyone would ever use the internet when libraries were superior and email was a cold counterpart to handwritten letters. That's probably part of the reason he was a cloistered monk. Girl said she hated her father. I said why? She goes, he wants me to pay him some of the money back I put on his credit card to live in Europe for a while. About 80k. That's less sheltered than spoiled. Long story short, a very rich friend of mine assumed all colleges, everywhere in the world, were free, just like public school. We had to tell him they weren't. He was 27. Dad, where's the dryer from my 12-year-old son? I honestly don't think I've ever seen him near the laundry room in his entire life. Watching Futurama was against his religion. This was actually to our English teacher who was showing an episode to show people what satire is. I would love to watch Futurama in class. In 8th grade, one of my classmates once told me what he wanted Santa to bring him that year. This kid was like 13 or 14. And his parents were still telling him that it was Santa who brought him presents. I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth, so I just told him what I wanted from Santa too. My co-worker dated a woman who, at age of 18, still didn't know Santa isn't real. My co-worker broke the news to her because she had a kid of her own by this point, and she was just expecting Santa to deliver gifts for her kid for Christmas. My cousin's GF and I were pregnant at the same time. I was 8 months, she was 7 months. My aunt brought sub rolls and deli meat out for us to make sandwiches. My cousin's GF smoked pot during her entire pregnancy. We were all disgusted by it, but no matter how many times we all told her, she insisted it was fine, because pot is natural. She also smoked cigarettes until she was 6 months along, because the baby's lungs weren't developed until then. Holy crap, I'd never heard anything so ignorant in my life. I officially despised her. It was the most selfish act I'd ever witnessed. So, she comes out from the bedroom after having smoked a joint, looks me dead in the face while I'm making a sandwich, and says, I don't think you're supposed to be eating deli meat while pregnant. It took every ounce of self-control not to go completely ballistic on this girl. I have zero respect for her to this day. My friend didn't know that you had to ovulate to get pregnant. She thought you just had sex and bam, baby. Good old small town Texas sex education. My high school is pretty sheltered. It's pretty funny sometimes. I was going for a drink of water and I walked past a class debate on the Constitution. I heard, and I quote, "The Second Amendment is not constitutional. What if someone just shoots you in the face?" The Second Amendment is not constitutional, regardless of one's views on gun rights. That's an interesting interpretation of the word constitutional. Don't really know if this is sheltered or not, but I had a girl in my class ask me what age I wanted to get married, and when I said around my late 20 early 30, she replied with, "Oh my god, you're going to wait that long to have sex? I'm getting married at 18 inches. It was wild. If one is going to wait till marriage to have sex, one must be prepared for the possibility of not having it till a late age, or maybe never having it at all. Source: I'm a 32-year-old devout Catholic, currently following that tenet of my religion. I had a co-worker bring a bottle of Wild Turkey 101 to our New Year's cabin retreat. He took a shot of it and almost puked his guts out. We asked him what was up and he just said, "This is awful. Why would beginners want to drink this?" Turns out he thought the 101 meant it was an intro level whiskey. This guy is serious a genius when it comes to working with kids and analyzing behavior. The irony about it wasn't lost when we spent the next 10 minutes explaining what proof of alcohol was. He was a champ though. Finished the whole bottle by the end of the weekend. Girl I knew in college didn't know we were allowed to swear in the dorms. We all playing Smash Bros one night, screaming swears, and she very politely tried to tell us the RA was down the hall so we wouldn't get in trouble for swearing. She decided to hang for a bit. We were still loud. RA stopped by to make sure we weren't drinking in a freshman dorm. We invited him to play, to which he responded, "Frick yeah." The look on her face was priceless. Overhearing old ladies just discover how many holes a vagina has and that yes, a woman can have an orgasm. It was kind of sad to be honest. A vagina only has one hole. My public speaking professor in college had to explain to a senior 22 years old that her dog had, in fact, not been sent to her farm but had passed away. The girl called her mother to confirm and had to leave class that day because she was so upset. This was me, but when I was around 5 my dad took me and my sister to the church for shoots and gigs. We weren't Christian. This was our first time in a church and we were all quietly examining the cool windows, altars etc. Once we were prepared to leave I blurt out, "So where's God?" I literally thought I would just see God walking casually around the church. My middle school does a trip where all the 8th graders go to a campsite and learn all about nature for a week. It's something all the younger kids look forward to. When we went to the dining hall for dinner, the first thing out of this girl's mouth was, "Where is the burrito?" I heard in public school, you get to punch the other kids. Elementary school kid that has only ever gone to private school. I minored in Spanish in college, and because this was in a Bible Belty state, a number of my classmates were evangelicals who wanted to become missionaries. You know, to save all those poor brown people from the sinister clutches of Catholicism. I heard a lot of loony stuff in those classes. But the worst was in a class where we were going over medical terminology. We got to a chapter on mental health and had to pair up with classmates to act out a scene where someone is going to the doctors with an anxiety attack. My partner, a super wholesome Christian princess, told me that she wasn't sure how to act because I don't hang out with people who have those kinds of problems. I mean, what would you do if you found out that one of your friends took psychiatric drugs? I think I just stared at her, because I'm sure she would have freaked if I told her she was talking to a person with mental health diagnosis at that very moment. If Americans didn't buy that new iPhone then they could afford healthcare. Chaffetz last week. Frick off dude. As someone needing another $10,000 surgery that I just had several months ago, days before I got booted from Minnesota Care because I got married, yet husband's insurance won't cover me, and trying to piece together how to get it done through Planned Parenthood and their resources. Frick that guy. Also frick polycystic ovaries. UK here. A former co-worker didn't know that salt and vinegar was a flavor crisps until he tried them for the first time in 2015 at the age of 25. He thought it was a new flavor. They were quite the revelation for him. Don't know what the crisps potato chips situation is like for all of you outside the UK, but over here the 3 core flavors that you can normally find in any shop or pub is as follows: ready salted, cheese and onion, salt and vinegar. I live in the United States and at the stores around here, it's easy to find at least plain S&V, barbecue, something with cheese, and sour cream and onion in most places. Girl at school asking a South African exchange student if she was getting used to using electricity and wearing clothes. I didn't realize how many people think that Africa is a country with naked people and no technology, save for like Cape Town, until Overwatch started announcing the backstory for Orisa. Like, dude. Dated a girl who didn't realize she had to spay and neuter her puppies, who were brother and sister, because she thought since they were related, he couldn't get her pregnant. When I asked why she would think that, she replied, because it's against God's will. 24 years old. Oh my god. Why are there so many starving children in Africa? Can't they just go and order from the McDonald's dollar menu? This is why Africans can't get ahead. They are not smart. I just died inside. I didn't know that evolution was a well-accepted scientific concept until I was 18 and told my boyfriend that it was just a theory. My parents homeschooled me and only let me be exposed to creation science. He laughed at me a lot. And when my mom asked him over a family dinner one night not long after this whether he'd be interested in homeschooling his kids, he said, "Number. I want my kids to be educated." He wasn't wrong, but she didn't appreciate it. Didn't hear it personally, but a friend of my brother didn't know the difference between period and puberty. One day when he was off, he got asked, "Are you on your period?" and he went, "Yes, I have already had my freaking period." People tried explaining to him the difference, but he thought they were messing with him and refused to believe them. "No, it's my period." Growing up poor must have been so nice. In your family you must love each other very much. I had a momentary struggle between wanting to 1. Start sobbing, 2. Slap him, 3. Educate him. As off-key as his comment was, it sounds like he might have had a pretty miserable, lonely, sad childhood for him to think that. I work at Subway. I was talking to a co-worker today who told me there was a girl who worked there before me who actually didn't know how to sweep. A co-worker of ours asked her to sweep the lobby, and so she just brought the broom and dustpan to the lobby and stared at it. That girl was a high school senior at the time. She now attends an Ivy League college, Cornell. I met a kid, 13, who was homeschooled and had never heard of Nazis or the KKK. I felt pity at his parents for sheltering him so much. A friend's mother didn't believe in microwaves. She came to my house and put an aluminum takeout tin with a metal spoon in it in my microwave when I was in the bathroom. I caught it at 30 seconds in. She'd set the microwave for 20 minutes. The sparks and the sound still haunt me. After she found out our family didn't have a cottage, she said, "Then where do you keep your boat?" We did not have a boat. Something I used to say, racism doesn't exist. I came from a 99% white small town in Canada. I truly believed racism didn't exist anywhere in the world. I tell my students not to work while they're in school, but definitely don't work 2 jobs. A relative who works as a school counselor. It's okay to ask for money from your parents. That's just the way the economy is now. My ex, who is almost 30 freaking years old, you can't call him black. That's racist. You're supposed to call them African American. My racist butt colleague, you can have an orgasm without penetration? You can't call him black. That's racist. You're supposed to call them African American. Wonder if the guy has ever met any Jamaicans and called them African American. Or called a Canadian black African American. Not every black person is from both Africa and America. My roommate freshman year of college was extremely sheltered. She had gone to an all-girls Catholic school and decided to move to Los Angeles after finishing, which was a horrible idea. I don't know why her parents let her go through with it. Now this girl had basically no knowledge of how young adults act and social norms. She also didn't have any knowledge of sex. One day it was blisteringly hot, and our building had a glorious actual pool that we all used as refuge from the heat. I was already going up, so I asked if she wanted to tag along, and she informed me that she was on her period. I asked why she couldn't just put in a tampon, and she replied that she was a virgin and she also didn't want to have to take it out when she peed. What? I then forgot about the pool and spent the next hour explaining to her that she didn't pee out of her vagina. She still didn't believe me even after I showed her diagrams from Google. So I made her go into the bathroom with a hand mirror and look herself. Blew her dang mind. Good on you for taking the time to help her like that. I didn't know I was pregnant. I thought I was just overeating because we broke up. Unfortunately for her, he impregnated his new girlfriend soon after they broke up, and his soon-to-be new wife's daughter and her son got a half-twin sibling just weeks apart in age. Apparently Christian virgins don't buy condoms or birth control because they'd never get pregnant unless they were married or some such delusion. By a stroke of luck, he divorced the crazy one and married the first one, and they've been happily married for 19 years now. When she finally called and told the father days before the child was born, he couldn't initially talk because he was busy prepping to get married to pregnant girl number 2. They finally talked after the wedding and he was bewildered that his previous college girlfriend was going to be having his son in the next week. The new wife, who was also weeks away from delivering, was pretty dang pee. This is the most confusing thing I've read today. I've read it 3 times and I still don't know what happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.